Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm 9 years sober. I continue every day to look to help others, to give back to those who have helped me, and to the community that's given me everything back into my life.
I'm Heather Champion. I'm a licensed mental health counselor with a private practice. I met Ben while working at an outpatient treatment center called The Retreat that's not here anymore. We've maintained our friendship since then and enjoy taking time to talk about therapy and our lives as champions.
So the idea for this podcast,
What you got?
um, I was thinking that it could just be a conversation, just about whatever's going on.
Okay.
Where if something comes up, there's something to talk about, like as far as that stuff is concerned. Because the thing is that like topics meander, the framework for it, just like the two of us having the same last name, but and kind of being in our own places of recovery from whatever it is that we're recovering from. But the fact of the matter is, and I think the running theme is what's a real champion?
Okay.
Because because the thing is that like there's lots of ways to define it. I was born a champion, but I got made fun of most of my life because I wasn't good at sports.
Yep. Or you're in the local newspapers for being arrested.
Right. So it's like, well, am I really a champion? Like I don't make a ton of money. I live alone. I'm turning 49 today. I've never been married. I've never had any kids. I got two dogs and two cats, but I have two master's degrees. Does that make me a champion?
I guess like anything, what's your definition of champion? And
Right.
what is your happiness level of the word champion?
Right.
And I think for most of us, when we hear the last name champion, it's people think sports.
Mhm.
Which I think is nice because that's an easy kind of push off is what do you say your name is? Champion, like the sports team. Okay, easy enough.
Yeah.
I think it's more personal when we say it to other people because we have that self input of, I'm not really a champion. Like if
Mhm.
you really knew, my last name should be something else probably.
Yeah.
Um,
If you were
but at
there
the
when I
same
was puking
token,
my guts into the garbage pail at Penn Station with a bum holding my hair back, you probably wouldn't think that of me.
exactly. But I think with a lot of it is it's what you reclaim of your own story.
Mhm.
I have fun with it when people say it is, yeah, back in the day it was a bad thing, but now that's just my last name. And if I decide to live as a champion of people, then that's what I decide to do.
Mhm.
But it's kind of just one of those last names. It's a blessing, but when you're in the shit, it's a curse.
Right.
Until you can kind of break out of it and make your name your own last name.
Hmm. Well, it's a really not a common name either.
No.
And I was talking to somebody, it's like Ben is the first person I've met my entire life that had the same last name as me and was not related to me some way.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is like the funniest thing if you think about it, because like so many people will run into other people with the same last name as them.
I think I figured what we want to do with this.
What's that?
I think the biggest thing why people miss therapy is this. They don't understand that it is truly just a conversation.
Mhm.
Like when I try to teach my clients is you just have to be willing to ask one more question and you have to be willing to hear one more answer. I had a client the other day. I finished up group. It was 3:45. I leave at 5. So he comes behind me. Hey, Ben, what time you leaving today? But he's like stuttering. I
Mhm.
said, 5. Why would you ask that? You know that. I was just checking. I said, you never ask me what time I leave. Like, what's up? And he stutters again. I said, no, come on. You're coming to my office with me. And we go back and forth why he's in fear of whatever he's in fear of. And we keep talking about him being fearful of reach out to old friends. That then they're sober, they have their lives together, this and the third. And I kept listening to him, but at some point, when people are bullshitting themselves because I did it for so long.
Mhm.
So I just simply said, brother, are you afraid of disappointing them or are you afraid of disappointing yourself, knowing that you're going to disappoint them? And his face just dropped. And it was my favorite thing that somebody does because I remember being in that contemplation stage so many times of,
Mhm.
damn, Heather's right. I can say, okay, Heather, you're right. I don't like that you're right, but let me listen. Or I could just say, Heather's right, and I no longer want to listen.
Mhm.
And he had that smirk of, damn, and I have to do self-reflection. And
Hmm.
I just simply said to him, all you had to do is ask one more question of me. Was I mean to you? Did I throw anything back? No, no, you just answered. I said, that's it. And I think a lot of people fear therapy because they fear just that one more question, that one more, God forbid, I'm not who I think I am.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of us fear that. I think that's a human thing that a lot of us are scared of. God forbid somebody sees the real me. And I think all of us have to work through that. But I think the best thing we can do with this podcast or just in any conversation is just teach people that it is truly a conversation.
Hmm.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't know every word Heather says to me. I don't understand all of it, but I understand that Heather cares enough to try.
Hmm.
And for most of us, if we really want to break down what therapy is we all know what it's like not to have somebody listen to us. Give this person a chance to listen to you.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting, like, God forbid somebody actually sees me, right?
That's scary, isn't it?
And doesn't like endorse who I think I am.
But
And
what is that? If we know we're signing up for therapy, then why
well, that's the
is
thing.
it human to fear yourself?
I think that part of why people do stupid shit is because they're trying to run away from who they are to go towards the person who they think they should be. I think that's the biggest issue that people have. And that the idea of who I think I'm supposed to be is a really, really strong one. If we are able to look at, okay, so this is the facade that I have, this is what I want to see, and then allow myself to see what's behind that facade, right? Because that's what I'm running away from. The cardboard cutout of a person that I pretend to be is just that. It's just a facade. It's just the face. When I get people in, because I got a woman in recently who she has a lot of trauma in her background. She's probably in her late 50s, early 60s. And she thinks she knows everything. She watches all these YouTubes about self-exploration and this and that. And when I try to pull her back into talking about things on, because she wants to be like very esoteric and talk about like all these great ideas and like when I do the curriculum with people, right? Like I give them like 4 stories to read and I want to see they're very short, they're like 3 paragraphs each. How much can you glean from this and how much are you adding to it? And when she went through it, she added so much to this story. It wasn't even, I was like, girlfriend, where are you getting all of this? Like, I don't understand. And so we're talking, and she was really getting aggravated with me because I wasn't giving her, and I could tell, like she maybe was unaware of it, but I can tell that she was looking for that pat on the back, that she's been doing such a good job because she's done all of her own research. And I'm like, you're missing the point, honey. This stuff is a lot more simple than you realize. It's not as complicated as you think. And complicated does not mean deep.
Nope. I think people make therapy complicated because it comes back to God forbid you see me.
Yeah.
God forbid you see the fear I have, the trepidation I have, and sometimes just unwillingness to do all this.
Mhm.
And I think the realest conversation you can have, because I think for a lot of people, I mean, you know this for me, is the biggest struggle is you see me at work, and that's who I want to be outside of work as well. I just don't know how to. And I think there's a lot of us, men and female, who really struggle with everyone says this, I'm a great person, I am this, that, and the third. The moment I get home, I don't want to be any of that.
Mhm.
I just want to be me, and that's calm, relaxed, reserved, don't want to talk to anybody, don't want to do anything. And I think a lot of people suffer with that is we can be Superman for 8 hours of the day, but after that, just leave me be.
Mhm.
And I know for myself that's something that even just doing this was something I saw Carl Jung say the other day on a TikTok that slapped me in the face of, hey, sometimes you have to do some self-reflection and realize that you're standing in the way of you,
Mhm.
nobody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of therapy is, and I think that's where this podcast could do well for people because I think the very basic of what we want to do as people in this industry is just say, hey, all you have to do is open up.
Mhm.
right? And if you get to the right person, they're going to allow you to open up on your time. It's going to take effort. There's going to be those days where you're not going to like what the therapist has to say, but the reality is I'd rather hear my therapist say it than my wife say it as she's walking out. Sometimes you got to hear the things you don't want to hear sooner than later.
I love when I tell people something and they're like, oh, my mom said that, or my wife said that, or my husband said that. And I'm like, well, maybe you should listen to them. Yeah, maybe I should. It's like, yeah, maybe the people in your life are actually telling you what you need to hear. You don't actually know. But the thing is that the hardest thing for us to do is to take information from others in our life that we already have a relationship with. Like if my mother tells me something, I'm like, oh God, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I just kind of blow it off. But if like somebody that I have like a respectful professional relationship with tells me the exact same fact, I'm going to believe them.
One of the biggest things I love most about sobriety is everything I've learned from my mother is coming back tenfold.
Yeah.
And I call her and remind her of that. And it's funny that she says, I don't remember saying that. I don't remember teaching you those things.
Yeah.
The reality is, it's been in a lot of us this whole time. We just forgot it somewhere. And I think, in therapy, it is, yeah, my wife has said that, but I can't respond to her the same way I can respond back to my therapist. I can't always, hey, why did you see that in me? Or what do you think that's from? Because then that's putting the onus back on somebody else.
Hmm.
Well, I think that's where a lot of the communication breakdown is, yeah, they say it, but I can't give a retort to them because
Right.
that can turn into 10 years down the road a bigger fight.
Hmm.
Um, well, I think therapy is one of those you take what you can, you learn what you can, and you try to implement it and be willing to come back and discuss what you implemented or working on.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be perfect. And I found a lot of times in therapy, you come to just a lot of self-realization of I could be doing better for myself,
Hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of. The scariest thing in therapy, I think, is truthfully, you could be better. You could do better for yourself.
Hmm.
And God forbid you admit that to yourself.
Yes. And well, what do I need to do? And what that's not for me to decide. I'm your guide. I am not your teacher. I'm not your director. I'm your guide. And
And a
this,
lot of times through that guidance is, I think, if you have the right therapist, you're gonna listen to it. Between you and Nick, if you guys tell me something to do, I'm gonna do it because I trust it.
Mhm.
And you also lived shared experiences to a degree. And I think for a lot of people, they just have to take time with finding a therapist.
Mhm.
It's not for me when I always tell people don't look for the person with the most fancy picture, look for the person with the realest face. The
Mhm.
person that's face says, okay, I can speak to you. Not the one that says I went to Harvard because look, I didn't go to Harvard and I still understand therapy. It's
Mhm.
human. It's not about a book you read. Yeah, that helps. But at the end of the day, if I can't read you as a human, my big words aren't going to help you much.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems that I try to help my supervisees learn. It's like you need to be in tune with what's happening, both with yourself and with the person you're working with. And that's one of the biggest things because I do work with people with like an excessive amount of empathy. So they feel stuff and they feel it very, very, very strongly. And as a result, like they don't know how to separate what they feel from what other people are feeling. And so they take on everything. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We can't carry everybody's shit because it's not yours to carry. And I talk to them about when you go to school to become a therapist, it's one of the first things that they're going to try to teach you is how to separate yourself.
Do you think though, realistically, I think one of the best thing about inpatient, if you do it right, you have to get out before it gets too bad, but you learn that in an inpatient setting. That would be hard to do, I would think, as somebody who's empathic myself, would be, hey, meet Heather for an hour, do therapy, and then just meet somebody else for an hour with nothing really in between, because I'm still going to think about Heather's first session with me because the next lady's going to deal with that. But I think impatient is you're going to see, hey, when people don't listen, you're going to see them every other month, and you're going to
Mhm.
see that it's not about you fully. They have to do the committing work too.
Right. Well, this is one of the reasons why I always recommend people who want to become a therapist to go work in an inpatient facility for a while. You have to do, I said, you always have to do the hard stuff first. because the stripes that you earn doing the hard stuff is going to make the rest of it so much easier that you're going to be like, this is a cakewalk.
And more impactful because you truly understand what you're doing. You truly get to see the impact of working with somebody for 3, 4 years. They get, 4 years sober. You see that impact. But if you never went to an inpatient and work with people with substance abuse, you don't see what it's like where you have a really good conversation one day and then 3 days later they discharge and a week later they're back and 10 times worse.
Right.
I think you need, like you said, you need to have those stripes to really understand, like, yeah, you can't be
Hmm.
empathetic to everything because a lot of times that person's not even empathetic to themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the biggest things is can you forgive yourself for what you've done? Because it's not about forgiving the person who hurt you, it's forgiving yourself for putting yourself in that situation.
I think a
That's
lot of that time comes in time. I still remember in AA, they say you're gonna laugh about these things one day. And when you're in it, you feel ashamed too because it's like,
Mhm.
why should I be laughing about that dumb stuff? But I still remember the first day that I ever laughed about some of the dumb things we did.
Mhm.
And it was the most relieving thing ever of, oh, yeah, you overcame something. You went through something. You accomplished something and you commit to something. And yeah, I deserve to laugh about those things because I survived.
Mhm.
Um, but I think self-forgiveness and all of therapy is it takes time. It takes time and there's still days. I mean, even doing this as we started this is there was some regret on my end because I don't know all the big words you use. I don't fully understand everything you always say to me.
Yeah.
But where I have to be forgiving to myself is, hey, I'm willing to do this though. I'm willing to say, Heather, what does that word mean? How do you use it in a context I would understand? But I think that's the most human thing we can do is know where we are and be willing to work on it and move forward.
Right.
Really, that's what this should be is
Mhm.
being human is because I think a lot of therapists, even when I talk to clients, it's hard to explain what this relationship would be until you do it. Because like I try
Right.
to explain to them, like you guys are kind of my therapist. If I know damn well if I say to Heather, hey Heather, I'm really slacking on working out. If you say Ben, do this, that, and third, it's not because you're so much more intelligent than me that I would do it. It's because I know that you care about what would make me work better. And I think a lot of people just need to understand that about therapy is, look, yeah, I have 100 of you. But then
Mhm.
the day I chose this line of work because I wasn't looking to make $100,000 just by diagnosing somebody. I was
Mhm.
looking to make an impact in somebody's life. And I think the best thing you can do with this platform is teach therapists that is, yeah, you might not have a gold watch in 5 years, but you know what? At the end of the day, when you lay your head down, you're going to have a gold watch in your heart because you did something.
Right.
Well, I think that's what we do with this. We make therapy accessible to people and just have a conversation. Be
Right.
willing to be human, be willing to take some feedback. Every once in a while, you'll tear up and cry, but you know what? I'd rather do that any day than sit in the bullshit that I was before. Still stem from is something I always tell my clients is I'm the dumbest one on my in my contact list. I
Mhm.
am the least educated, but I am the one who wants to learn the most outside of, the other ones who want to learn is you surround yourself with really smart people who are willing to dumb it down for you just enough for you to also learn at the same time and not feel threatened by their intelligence.
And
Mm.
I think that's an important thing to share with other people is not that you're dumb or that you think that you're dumb, but that there are people in the world that can state things that's understandable to you in a very kind of basic way and get some of that out, into whatever is out there. Because I think that I have conversations like kind of in my head, and I have conversations in my sessions with people. And I think that some of those people really appreciate the things that they're learning, but sometimes they're not able to translate it themselves to help others pick up that information. And it's like I can only make so much content, where I'm just spewing information because I've got a ton of that out there. There needs to be more conversation about these things where somebody's asking an actual question and then I can explain things to them. And then
I,
if there's a question about that explanation, we can get further into that, right? Because I know
I'll,
like I hear a lot of these things like and I hear these like explanations of things and I'm like I don't know. Like I know like if so and so were to hear that, they would misinterpret it this way, and so and so heard that, they would misinterpret it that way, right? So it's like I don't know some of those explanations out there when there's no conversation behind it if they really work.